Hello, my dear friends. Today we have a session to discuss the previous questions from literary criticism. And when you analyze these questions, you can easily identify the areas in which you need to give more importance. I know you're all busy with your studies, so we don't have much time to waste. Let me move on to the questions. 2003 HSST Junior. The first question is the term dash is used to signify an error in judgment, whether through ignorance or moral fault. The answer is hamartia. Next one. Dash is the powerful art of poetry written in reply to Stephen Gosson. The answer is Philip Sidney's Apology for Poetry. Next one. The purgation of emotion in a play, according to Aristotle, is catharsis. Next is the term dissociation of sensibility is associated with the critic T.S. Eliot. Next question. Discuss Elaine Showalter's threefold division representing the growth of feminist writings. It's a descriptive question. Next questions are from HSST Senior 2003. The lectures of Plato have been preserved in the form of dialogues. The century in which Aristotle wrote his Poetics is 4th century BC. Who wrote the Treatise of Literary Criticism on the Sublime, Longinus? Which work of Bharata Muni gives us for the first time a kind of outline for poetics? Natyashastra. Who wrote 7 Types of Ambiguity? William Emerson. The essay The Death of the Author is written by Roland Barthes. Write an essay on structuralism as a method of analyzing literature and the literary text. It's a 5-mark question. Next questions are from HSST Senior 2006. And remember, all the questions are descriptive. The first one is catharsis, T.S. Eliot's theory of impersonality, defamiliarization, deconstruction. Next is 2 varieties of feminist criticism according to Elaine Showalter. HSST Junior 2006. Reader response theory and feminist criticism. Next is from HSA 2007. Only one question is asked from criticism portion. Give a brief explanation of new historicism. Next questions are from HSST 2011. Coleridge in Biographia Literaria calls dash a magical and synthetic power, secondary imagination. According to Iyer Richards, dash signifies the writer's attitude to the reader, tone. Dash used social anthropology for the evaluation of literary works. The answer is Claude Lévi-Strauss. Next is Aristotle used the term dash to indicate the moment of recognition in which a character moves from ignorance to knowledge. The answer is anagnosis. The feminist criticism which considered woman as writer is dash by Showalter, gynocriticism. What, according to Trilling, is the influence of Freud on literature? It's a 5-mark question. Next questions are from HSST 2015. The key textbook of the emotional theory of Rasa is Natyashastra. According to Aristotle, hamartia is a personal error in a protagonist's personality that brings about his tragic downfall. Next is Lyrical Ballads was published with the preface in the year 1800. In his essay Tradition and the Individual Talent, Eliot describes the process of poetic creation in terms of an analogy of a chemical reaction. Archetype means the answer is an original idea or model on which something is patterned. Rag Derrida's lecture Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of the Human Sciences heralded the beginning of post-structuralism. The second phase in the history of women's literature, as discussed by Elaine Showalter in her essay Towards a Feminist Poetics, the feminist phase. Michel Foucault's essay discussing the notion of the author. The answer is what is an author? Lacan's concept of the mirror stage is related to a critical stage in the development of individuality during a child's growth. The author of the book Towards an Aesthetic of Dalit Literature. The answer is Sharan Kumar Limpala. Next is 2016 HSST Senior. What, according to Coleridge, is essentially vital and struggle to idealize and unify. The answer is secondary imagination. According to Edward Said, the Orient is portrayed in Western novels, media, and artwork as lost in the past, prone to despotic rule, and plagued by odd cultural traditions. Panopticism is the title of the chapter in a well known book by Michel Foucault. It represents how discipline and punishment work in a society. Wordsworth's primary concern in the lyrical ballads was the language of poetry. What is considered as the central principle of literary criticism of Sanskrit literature? The answer is Vyanjana. The term peripeteia means fluctuations occurring in the fortune of the hero. In which essay did Matthew Arnold regarded poetry as a criticism of life under the condition fixed for such criticism by the laws of poetic truth and poetic beauty? The answer is study of poetry. Who among the following belongs to the radical feminist? The answer is Monique Wittig. The essay Compulsory Heterosexuality and Lesbian Existence was written by Adrienne Rich. The Pitfalls of National Consciousness is an essay by Frantz Fanon. Who defined postmodern as incredulity towards meta-narrative? The answer is Ran Franco Liotta. A method based on the parallel reading of literary and non-literary texts is New Historicism. According to T.S. Eliot, emotion of art is impersonal. Gynocriticism aims to understand specificity of women's writing as a product of sexism, adopt male models and theories, erase differences between male and female writings, understand women's writing as a fundamental aspect of the female reality. The answer is option A. Art as technique highlights the concept of defamiliarization. The statement, one may be a poet without versing and a versifier without poetry, was made by Philip Sidney. Which poem by Wordsworth is cited by Clem Brooks as based on a paradoxical situation? The answer is It's a Beauteous Evening. An interdisciplinary approach to the relation between literature and environment is found in eco-criticism. The terms lesbian existence and lesbian continue were advocated by Adrienne Rich. The term thick description was used by the anthropologist Clifford Geertz in his work, The New Historicism. The term culture industry is associated with Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer. The German sociologist who is the author of The Structural Transformation of the Public Sphere is Jürgen Habermas. The author of The Postmodern Condition is Ran Franco Liotta. Dash is a key feature of diasporic literature. The answer is displacement. Next is 2018 HSST English. Mimesis means imitation. Dr. Johnson defended Shakespeare's mixing of comic and tragic rants. Stephen Gosson wrote School of Abuse. HSST English 2015. The first one is Who brought forth the Rasa Dhwani Siddhanta? Abhinava Gupta. Next one, Aristotle defined poetry as medium of imitation. Which of the following is a wise style opposed to the sublime according to Longinus? The answer is affectation. Who is called the father of English criticism by Dr. Johnson? John Dryden. Who stated that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings? William Wordsworth. Arnold's touchstone method is modeled on Longinus' test of poetic greatness. What, according to Elaine Showalter, is the reason for the impasse that feminist criticism had reached in the 1970s? The male character of theory itself. Which of the following is not one of the main points in Lacan's insistence of the letter in the unconscious? The answers are there is no getting outside language. Human self for soul transcends the limit of language. Language is intimately figurative. Human subject is constituted through entry into language. So the answer is B. Michel Foucault elaborated upon the relationship between knowledge and power propounded by Nietzsche. Next questions are from Lecture in English Screening Test 2014. First one, dissociation of sensibilities associated with metaphysical poetry. The discovery or recognition that happens towards the end of a tragedy is anagnosis. Eliot describes the progress of an artist as an outcome of the process of depersonalization. Longinus approached the greatness of Greek masterpiece on account of their sublimity. The trust in the combination of presence and language is what Jacques Derrida calls logocentrism. The Russian formalist who coined the term defamiliarization was Viktor Shklovsky. In Sanskrit literary criticism, dash is considered as the ultimate end of literature, the highest aesthetic value which is an end in itself. The answer is rasa. The emotions that are delineated in literature as more abiding and lasting are called sthayi bhavas. Artistically devised sound patterns like anuprasa, yamaka and slasa are examples of shabdalangara. Who defines the public sphere as a society engaged in critical public debate? Jürgen Habermas. Who among the following is associated with Marxist environmentalism? David Pepper. The idea of lesbian continuum is associated with Adrienne Rich. The New Feminism, an influential feminist book, is authored by Natasha Walter. The work by Borges borrowed by Bautista to explain hyperreality is, the answer is on exactitude in science. Worlds of Hurt, reading the literature of trauma, was written by Khalithal. Next questions are from Lecture in English 2015. First one, Theory of Rasa is taken from Natyashastra. On the Sublime was written by Longinus. According to Dr. Johnson, Shakespeare is above all writers, at least above all modern writers, the poet of nature. Willing suspension of disbelief figures in Biography Literaria. Who authored Anatomy of Criticism? Northrop Frye. According to Viktor Shklovsky, the technique of art is to make objects unfamiliar. In classical thought, the center is within the structure and outside it because, according to Derrida, the center escapes structurality. Who can write Dalit literature according to Sharan Kumar Limpale? A Dalit. One of the following is considered as a seminal text in postcolonial studies. The answer is The Wretched of the Earth. In relation to imperialism, colonialism specifically concerns settlement. Raymond Williams is associated with Birmingham Center. Dick Hebdige terms the new forms of cultures produced by marginalized groups as subcultures. Stephen Greenblatt is a new historicist. Epistemology of the Closet, a significant contribution to queer theory, is authored by Eve Kosofsky-Sedgwick. Cyber-feminists consider cyberculture as revolutionary. The Structural Transformation of the Public Sphere is written by Jürgen Habermas. Claude Felty defines eco-criticism as the study of the relationship between literature and physical environment. Next is 2018 collegiate examination. First question, how does Eliot establish the mind of the poet as a catalytic agent? Next is, explain the term hubris. Third one, mention 3 exponents of new criticism. Next is, what according to Elaine Showalter are the 3 phases of women's writing? Next is, discuss the main tenets of structuralist criticism. And next questions are from Assistant Professor of English 2020. And these questions are based on our latest syllabus. The first one is, how does Coleridge differentiate fancy and imagination? Next is, explain the theory of Rasa, archetypal criticism, explain T.S. Eliot's concept of the traditional and individual talent. Next questions are from HSA English 2015. I think most of you are familiar with these questions. The first one is, a reversal of fortune according to poetics is peripeteia. Next is, Aristotle, I've been told, has said that poetry is the most philosophic of all writing. Identify the speaker. The answer is William Wordsworth. Coleridge states in Biographia Literaria, good sense is the body of poetic genius. Fancy, its drapery, motion, its life and imagination, the soul. Who introduced the concept of touchstone in literary criticism? Matthew Arnold. Who opined that the business of the poet is not to find new emotions but use the ordinary ones? T.S. Eliot. Who authored Language and Literature? Victor Schloss. Dear friends, here ends our today's session. I hope you got an idea about the previous questions. If you want to get more notes, just go through my other videos. Thank you.